Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, as we are all aware that stage 3 lockdown has now been imposed in Australia. That means that majority of us would be spending more time indoors. However, there are some individuals who feel disadvantaged. They feel inconvenienced because they are required to remain within the confinement of their houses. Just on a lighter note, a brother recently tells me that it feels like we are under house arrest, and this is the general perception of people. But here I would like to pause for a moment, and I want us to realize that we are not in a worse situation than our brothers and sisters in the poor countries. These are people who live in the midst of poverty. They live in simple houses, basic homes, consisting of only one bedroom. And I will not exaggerate if I say that some of them live in an open area. They don't have the luxuries like we do. They don't have toy rooms, computer rooms, playstations, internet connections. But yet, they are equally required to self-isolate themselves. Just by the way of example, let's look at the remote areas of South African suburbs, the rural areas in South Africa, known as squatter camps. People in squatter camps live in tiny homes known as shacks. I have been there. And just to give you a greater picture of how these places look like, a shack, a squatter camp, a shack, is made out of iron sheets. Sometimes made out of cheap wood and scrap metals. And you know how it feels to be in that place? When the weather is hot outside, it is terribly hot inside these places. And likewise, when it's cold, it's freezing cold in these places. And as we speak, South Africa has also imposed 21 days lockdown. And that means that these people that live in these terrible conditions, they are also required and mandated to self-isolate themselves. And the only difference between them and us is that they are isolating themselves in these poor and basic simple houses, while you and I, we are isolating ourselves in luxurious homes, 3-bedroom houses. And some of you, double stories, some of you, triple stories, with all the basic necessities of our lives. Can we ever complain? Can we ever complain? A believer is the one that always thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for any condition that comes his way. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam teaches us in the narration of Muslim that عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. That amazing is the quality of a believer. Amazing is the approach of a believer. Why, ya Nabi Allah? إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاء شَكَرْ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. When prosperity comes his way, he is thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاء صَبَرْ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And if adversities, unfavorable conditions, difficult moments comes to him, afflicts him, he is patient and waiting for the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here I would like to conclude, and I want us to remain patient and to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for any condition that comes our way. Let's remember that there are people in worse conditions than us, and they are not complaining. And as long as we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over these privileges and favors that He has bestowed upon us, and as long as we remain patient and persevering, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us double reward and avert this tragedy away from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us patience and make us from those who are thankful. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Allah says there's only a small category of people who perpetually remain thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us from them. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.